Does the FDA regulate genetically modified foods?
Yes, it does, and it does in conjunction with the Department of Agriculture and the Environmental Protection Agency. And I was on the Food Advisory Committee in 1994 when the FDA made its decisions to approve the production of genetically modified foods, and also when it decided that not only wasn't not necessary to label genetically modified foods, but you also weren't going to be allowed to.
I'm of the opinion that food labeling is incredibly important. One of the biggest privileges that we have in an American society is being able to have an incredible access to knowledge. And I think that not putting information on labels of foods violates that in a certain way. I don't necessarily think that the process of GMO is bad or is good, but I do think that we have the right to know if our food has been tampered with genetically, if genes have been inserted from some sort of other food item into the current food item that you're eating. I think that it's really important that you're aware of that so you can make informed choices.
When I go to the store, specific things in labels that I try to look out for at least are high fructose corn syrup, anything. Usually if something says there's preservatives in it, then I try to stay away from it, but to be honest, I don't always. But it's something I for sure try and keep an eye out for at least.
I know that there is really no restriction on GMOs right now. You are not required to label if there is a GMO product inside of the food that you're selling.
I know from seeing a few documentaries that the people benefiting are the people who are making them. So I guess in that sense, like, yes, it's more profitable for you, but for everyone who's eating that and buying it, it's terrible for us.
I eat a predominantly vegan diet, so I look at labels a lot as I go through foods, mostly because I'm trying to avoid any animal byproducts. But looking at food labeling, I also try to avoid sugars and any syrups, things like that. I do aim for organic products, but I'm a college student, so I don't have a lot of money. But I definitely try to look at boxes and look at labels and see if it has, if it's the best quality that I can get. And I do prefer, even though it's not mandatory, the foods that do say if they are non-GMO. I do prefer those. Yeah. I think, well, there's a couple of things I think that could be changed about labels. I think that a daily allowance of sugar should be included on labels, because right now we just have it listed as grams, and there's no, like when you look at vitamins or when you look at protein, it says this is X percentage of your daily diet of 2,000 calories. Sugar doesn't have that, so I think that we should include that in labels. But with specifically GMO labeling, I think that putting what ingredients have been genetically modified is important, because the way that they're modified varies item to item, and some of them are more heavily modified and can be considered more dangerous than others. So simply saying this product contains GMO ingredients, I don't think is necessarily enough.
Come the near future, I believe that food labeling laws can definitely be improved upon. I know for a fact, for working with Old Hearth Bread Company, that there's bromated flour that is terrible for you, and it's banned in, I think it's now banned in the US, but it wasn't in the past, and it's banned in Europe. I think if we can follow Europe's laws in that sense, food-wise, I think that we could vastly improve on like what goes into our system and what we don't want in it. And so just banning GMOs as a whole would be awesome. No preservatives, all organic. I would love it.
Yeah, I think that if legislation was to be, if I could vote on it, I would vote in favor of having as much labeling as possible on GMO ingredients and items.
Over the last 20 years, FDA has reviewed data and information on more than 150 plant-derived GE foods. These range from herbicide-tolerant soybeans to canola oil with a modified fatty acid profile. Based on our evaluations, we are confident that the GE foods in the U.S. marketplace today are as safe as their conventionally bred counterparts.
I do trust FDA's labels. I think that if they call something organic, then it is organic. If they say something is not genetically modified, I don't think it's been genetically modified. Recently, they passed legislation that changed from having to label genetically modified salmon, and now they don't have to have a label, and I think that that is problematic because it takes away information from the consumer.
I think it's crazy. Like, I feel like everything is either gonna be genetically modified in our future and it's gonna be terrible. Like, there are gonna be side effects to it. I think GMOs and preservatives are what cause, gallbladder problems or indigestion, things like that. And I feel like we're gonna see that come the near future, and it's gonna be terrible, and it's gonna be because of GMOs. Genetically modified food, while it may be cheaper for a consumer, also there's we don't buy organic because it's expensive, but if we only start buying organic, then that price will go down because no one will buy not organic, and that will go up. I think it's like a worldwide thing that everyone needs to come together with, and they need to push for health, because it's not at the forefront of our society. So I think while it may help right now to have GMO products for someone in a lesser position than, say, myself, I think that we would still find a way. Like, if we had community gardens, then we can still feed the homeless. We could feed people who couldn't afford to go to the grocery store and get organic, because we would already be growing it in our backyards. So.
And I was a consumer representative on the committee. They didn't listen to the consumer representatives. We warned the FDA at the time, and this was now 20 years ago, that if they didn't label genetically modified foods, there would be a consumer backlash against them, because consumers would wonder what they were trying to hide. And I think that's what's happening now, and the big surprise to me is that it took 20 years to get to this point.